Welcome back to my channel. I'm Jen, KetosisMom. What I would like to start out with today is I would love for everybody to put down in the comments below some topics that they would like for me to cover in upcoming weeks. First and foremost, I do want to thank Michelle McDowell Designs for sending me my outfits for my weekly videos. I truly appreciate it. They're also offering my audience via this QR code and also the link down in the caption an additional 20% off using the code JEN, J-E-N. So make sure that you look for some of these designs. The ones that I've been wearing the past few weeks, I did note that during their July 4th sale, they have it over on the sale tab if you're interested in any of these recent looks that I've been showing you guys. All right, today we're going to do this a little bit differently because there's some things in the news that I want to hit first and foremost, because I noticed that a lot of you guys, you do like to use my timestamp down below. You do like to skip around. You do like to kind of go look through a lot of my links down below, especially because there's a lot of savings down there as well. First and foremost, we're going to start with GLP-1 in the news with Jen. I just looked just to make sure there were no updates before I started my video, and in fact, there are. There is a new news article, scare the public, oh no, type thing that is bouncing around. I'm sure it will also take a huge hit to the Novo Nordisk stock as well, except for the stock markets are getting ready to close because it's July 4th week, of course, so maybe they'll be okay. There was an ophthalmology office in Boston that noticed that 3 in 10 patients that came in that had developed what they call a rare blindness disease called NAION. It's typically only seen in about 10 in every 100,000 patients is this rare blinding disease of damage to your optic nerve. It can cause sudden blindness in one eye. It can cause sudden blindness in both eyes. It's very rare. They don't see it that often. And then all of a sudden 3 out of 10 patients in 1 week all had it. They did note that each one of those patients had been taking a semaglutide. Each of them had been taking Novo Nordisk, either Ozempic or Wegovy. So this was something for them to raise their red flag on. Of course, Novo Nordisk is saying that there is no actual causation link between the two at this time. However, the ophthalmology area and board is calling for this to potentially be added by the FDA onto their label or onto their adverse effects that have been noted. I will tell you guys that, let me look, it says that diabetic patients are 4 times more likely to develop this if they are on Ozempic or Wegovy, whereas it said that if just the obesity side, so that would be just the Wegovy side, is 7 times more likely to develop this. Now, this was done amongst their own study and group of patients. I believe it said it was 17,000 patients that they pulled data for to look through all of this and see if there was in fact, some type of linkage between the two. Obviously, it's going to have to be something that is studied much, much more before either the FDA or Novo Nordisk accepts to place this on this specific drug line's adverse effects or effects to watch for. As you all know, just because something happens with a certain group of people doesn't mean that it's all just because of this one thing. Also noting that they are all from the same location. There could have been, I don't know, a certain restaurant that they went to and they all ate a certain octopus. I don't know. Nobody really knows until there's official clinical studies around it, and I don't really know anybody that would want to do a clinical trial around, hey, is this going to give me blindness? So I do wish all parties on that front the best of luck. It is something that you should probably notate to yourself, like, hey, this is still kind of up in the air and they're still looking into it type information though. I will say that Eli Lilly, my wonderful Zepbound manufacturer, I am in the process of going through and pulling a lot of different data on both Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly to put a blog post together for you all. It has been a request by different viewers that, hey, you did this on the pharmacies, can you also do this on the manufacturers so that we can pull that more easily? I have no idea how to look up this information on them. I'm still in the process of building that blog post for you all. I will be doing it over probably throughout the next week because it's very slow moving. And of course, it's also July 4th week, so I need a little bit of a break, guys. There's also Amazon Prime Day coming up. I will put a QR code and a link down below. If you guys are not already Prime members, you can get a free trial of Amazon Prime so that you can shop some of those Prime Day deals. So I have a lot going on my Amazon influencer world, and I have a lot going on just in normal daily life as well. So I promise you I will get around to it and I will make the blog post. You will have it and I will announce when. Okay. Eli Lilly did get their Alzheimer's drug approved this week. So of course you saw a random shoot up in their stock price because they got this new Alzheimer's drug approved. They're also in the process of getting Zepbound, yes, Zepbound, approved by the FDA for the use with sleep apnea patients. If they get this approved for sleep apnea patients, you're also looking at, drumroll please, Medicare coverage for everybody that has been very angry that Medicare does not cover this for them. Currently, Medicare will cover wegovy for patients who have had or are at risk of cardiovascular events. Since Novo Nordisk did get that cardiovascular check mark by the FDA to be added to a benefit of their drug, therefore it opened up coverage from Medicare for both wegovy and Ozempic for our seniors. Zepbound is headed there. I look for it to possibly be this fall if I was to guess. It really all just depends. I discussed previously with you that both President Biden and Bernie Sanders have been calling out the heads of Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly a lot in the news for their pricing. What is very interesting to me is that neither of these gentlemen, neither Joe Biden nor Bernie Sanders, are stepping back to realize that there is a much more complex system here in the United States that we have discussed previously as far as your PBMs and your insurance, your private insurance companies. That is where a lot of the pricing and the driving factor goes. It's not directly typically from the manufacturer. The manufacturer is constantly going back and forth between this. Personally, I get my Zepbound for $25. $25 for an entire month of my Zepbound with their savings card. That's also something to take into consideration. I will say that the entire House, Senate, everyone has been looking into different pathways for seniors to be able to obtain these drugs. It did recently go through the House to be able to get passed, where it's basically saying if Medicare is to cover these weight loss drugs, right, which is your Ozempic, your wegovy, your Zepbound, your Saxenda, mounjaro, whatever it happens to be, that it would cost the government billions of dollars. I believe the number that I saw, they had a range, which was obscene to me. They had a range of $268 billion all the way up to $1 trillion. However, what they're not looking at, which most analysts would if they know what they're doing, are what are the benefit costs or the benefit savings if we incur this cost. And the actual savings that they would benefit from covering this upfront cost to combat obesity and all of the obesity related diseases in the United States would be well into the billions, if not trillions itself, as far as other things that they would have to be covering. I do know that they said that over 40% of adults in the United States are currently considered obese and have other obesity underlying conditions that are having to be treated. A lot of those adults are in my age range, a little bit older, and they're going to be the ones moving up into Medicare. We've got the baby boomers that are getting there now, and then we're going to continue to progress after that. It also says that we have over 300,000 people in the United States dying from obesity every single year. We do have the bill that is going through right now, getting looked at by both the House, the Senate, and also it would have to be signed off by the president. That is the Treat and Reduce Obesity Act. I do believe that Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk is being called in front of everyone at Capitol Hill to answer questions in regards to them continuing to consider whether or not they're going to push this through and have Medicare cover it or not. I think that there's just a lot that has to be figured out. I know that we do have the Affordable Care Act here in the United States, and we also have the different agencies that go through and basically make a list of what is done during a preventative care type checkup and what is covered in considered preventative care. And I know that they are pushing for obesity checks and obesity treatment to be something to look at as far as preventative care, because if you can prevent obesity from happening, you're going to prevent a lot of the related diseases that come along with obesity as well. So I think this is something that hopefully this year, knock on wood for everybody, gets figured out within the government and our seniors can start reaping the benefit from this as well. If, however, they don't figure it out and they continue to say, no, we're not covering weight loss medications, I think you are still going to be okay, because the majority of these drugs have a long list of things that they are studying as far as what they can treat. I mean, you're looking at it's treating sleep apnea, it's treating inflammation and rheumatological disorders for autoimmune patients like RA. You're also looking at it potentially treating kidney disease, liver disease, PCOS. Cardiac function and strokes. It can help people who have things with that. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. There are so many studies that I reviewed even just in past videos that Tirzepatide alone for Eli Lilly is in the process of studying and trying to get the FDA to look at their studies and approve it for indicated use, that eventually there will be an indicated use that you'll get covered by. Even if you're not able to get it approved for the weight loss section, maybe you can get it approved for the sleep apnea section. So it's just kind of, the government needs to pick it up and figure out how they want to do this, because one way or another, people are going to figure out how to get this covered. Another thing that I will go over is that there is a new study, even though we did cover that the semaglutide potentially could cause this sudden blindness. There are new things and new articles about there are new 5 potential benefits of semaglutide. And so it's always been my personal opinion that it's very individualized, and that's why I feel like your doctor really needs to know a lot about you and what other type of specialist you're seeing and what other kind of diseases you have, because this could be something that could treat multiple things across the board for you. My hopes are that my Tirzepatide is helping with my inflammation, it's helping with my PCOS, it's helping if I potentially develop Alzheimer's like my grandmother has, and it's also keeping me from, as my husband says, snoring more. The article that I did read, though, said that the 5 new benefits for semaglutide were kidney disease, that we already knew, the cardio, it's already been approved for that, cardio and stroke, but now colorectal cancer has been added with dementia, odd one, pancreatitis, because I've always heard that, oh, these drugs can cause pancreatitis. Now they're trying to claim that it can help treat acute pancreatitis. And then they're also looking at, like I said, PCOS and substance addictions, like alcoholism, for instance, drug addiction, things like that. So I knew that a lot of these were taking place. I did not know about the pancreatitis one. I was assuming the PCOS because I know a lot of GYNs have been writing Wegovy for years. For their PCOS patients. My GYN offered to write me the Wegovy for PCOS, and I told her I'm looking at what my options are. I'm likely going to go with a Tirzepatide for other reasons. And so it was just very interesting to me that now they're coming out with so many different benefits that they're studying, because they are really trying to get those indicated uses so that they can get this covered for everyone. Just covered for everyone, regardless of what use you need it for. I've also seen really big this week. You guys know I'm not a huge TikTok fan. Yes, I'm on TikTok, but I just don't like it. I think maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's my attention span thing. I don't like anything that like draws me in, and then when I try to close it out, it just keeps going. That's annoying to me. And I feel like when I try to close something out, it should close out, not just go to the next one and keep trying to grab my attention. I also feel that TikTok has just turned into a giant selling platform. And most of the influencers who are on TikTok, this is one of the reasons I don't like it. Most of the influencers who are on TikTok are only there to do the TikTok shop deals to try to make money on whatever is offered to them. It could be the tiniest piece of junk to a treadmill that is sent to them for them to try to sell to people. And I don't find it to be very authentic. I don't find the large TikTokers to be very authentic, unless they are not doing TikTok shop. The only ones that I really find myself still even going and looking to see what they're doing if they pop up are a lot of the photography type people who are just showing you how to take better photos. Some of the makeup people, if they're doing their makeup, but they're not even telling you what they're using because they're not really worried about selling it to you. That's really the only things on TikTok that I even like looking at anymore. But I do know that TikTok is trying to sell that rice water is the same as taking Ozempic. Okay, just let that one simmer for a minute. I would actually love to hear down in the comments if you all have tried this before. Have you tried drinking the rice water yet to see if it has any type of effects? I would love to know. I'd also love to know if you guys have seen this before. I have been seeing rice water for years, but typically where people are spraying it on their skin for a sunburn or eczema or acne on their face, or they're spraying it on their hair to get their hair to grow. And now it has turned into drinking of the rice water as well. So, it's very interesting, TikTok. It's very interesting. So tell me in the comments below if that's something that you've ever tried before. So I'll go ahead and go over my week 19 results. And as I'm going through these week 19 results, I'm going to explain to you all why I feel it is likely time and possibly beyond time for me to go ahead and be on the 5 milligram. And as most of you know, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I've been on 5 milligram before. I was on the 5 milligram for 4 weeks, and then we were even discussing bumping me up from the 5 milligram to the 7.5 milligram after the 4 weeks, and then our shortage hit. So I could not get anything other than the 2.5. In hindsight, I feel like going back on the 2.5 was probably good for me, because the first real side effects that I started seeing was when I was on the 4 weeks of the 5 milligram. However, the first real benefits that I saw were also on the 5 milligram. I will note that when I was personally on the 5 milligram was the first time that I really felt like a lot of the inflammation that I have in my joints throughout my whole body with my autoimmune disease. That was really the first time that I felt like I didn't feel it. I was really excited. I was messaging my rheumatologist like, oh my gosh, this is the best I've ever felt. You need to look into this. You need to look into this for inflammation. However, the first 2 weeks, if I'm recalling correctly, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong if you've been watching me, but I believe the first 2 weeks was when I really had the nausea and vomiting type feelings. And it was almost more like it felt like heartburn in the middle of the night that then would turn into like this extreme nausea. It went away after the first 2 weeks that I went on the 5 milligram. And so I was like, hey, you know, I can deal with that if I'm moving like I'm moving and feeling like I'm feeling. I think I worked out the most when I was on the 5 milligram because I was feeling so great. And so I'm looking forward to that again. I know that typically the clinical trial study, we went over this in the first couple of weeks, you stay on the 2.5 milligram for 4 weeks, and it's what most doctors call a loading dose. It's just to make sure that your body's going to be able to handle it, get your body used to it, and then you move up into one of what they call the maintenance doses, which is either the 5 or the 7.5. I do know that a lot of people who have been switching from wegovy or Ozempic over to a Tirzepatide have been saying that their doctors are starting them on a higher dose of the Tirzepatide. I will say personally, I think that that is a mistake. I think that if you're switching from a GLP-1 semaglutide over to a Tirzepatide, that they are completely different molecules. They are completely different medicines. And I think that you should start, even if you were on a high dose of wegovy, I think that you should still start at a 2.5 for a minimum of 4 weeks on a Tirzepatide, or on Zepbound if you're coming over to Zepbound. Then I feel like if you do okay on that, then you can titrate up. But I don't really agree with people being started at a 7.5 or started at a 10. I feel like that's a lot of when people are really having a lot of the nausea, vomiting, constipation, diarrhea. You're basically just your whole GI upset with that. The reason that I feel like it's time for me to officially move from the 2.5 to the 5 is, as you guys know, each time I take my Cosentyx, it's just this back and forth thing where I gain weight on Cosentyx. I usually gain what I had lost the previous week plus some. Then it takes me an additional, a third week to get that off. And so 3 weeks of the month is really just a battle of getting the Cosentyx weight back off, which I'm grateful for that I'm not continuing to gain it. But it would be nice if I didn't have to do that, but maybe 1 week of the month. And so I know a lot of you have been saying, I cannot wait for you to go on the 5. I can't wait to see how well you do on the 5 and how this goes. I am there with you as well. I'm on week 20 right now. And so I just took my week 20 injection, which was still the 2.5. So week 21, I will go back on the 5. And out of the full 20 weeks, I have only had 4 of those weeks be on a 5 milligram, which means that I've had 16 weeks that I have been on a 2.5 milligram. Now, I have lost close to 40 pounds. I'm just under a 40-pound loss being on the 2.5 during those times, which I'm fine with that. This past week, my week 19, I only lost 0.2 pounds. It is coming up also on a Cosentyx week. So I was due for my Cosentyx injection today. I do not like to take my Cosentyx injection the same day as a Zepbound injection. And so I try to separate them at least a few days. And so I'm going to hold off on my Cosentyx and not take it until this weekend, which is fine. It's not ideal, but it's fine. There is no reason, there is no like listed interactions between the two. I could take both of them. It's just my own personal preference to not kind of flood my body with too much at one time. And so I am going to wait for that. So I know that taking my Cosentyx this weekend, it's probably going to be the 0.2 pounds that I lost again, right back, potentially even more. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, next Wednesday, when I do take my first 5 milligram, we will see how it goes as far as kind of combating that Cosentyx weight gain and whether or not it's going to do the same thing that happened at the 2.5 milligrams on the 5 milligrams as well. Now, my local endocrinologist does want me to stay on the 5 milligrams as long as possible. She thinks that this is going to be my maintenance dose that I will need to be on. Of course, I've got the Weight Watchers Clinic doctor who also says, hey, we might go up to 7.5 milligram depending on how the weight goes. I personally would like to stay on the lower doses. I'm okay losing weight slowly. It gives me time to try to correct some of this like saggy skin that I have, you know, right here. It gives me time to make sure that I'm getting my collagen in to help with that. It gives me time. I've gone over a lot of the skincare products that I'm currently using and making sure that I'm really trying to work through all that. It also gives me time to start trying to build more muscle. I do not want to lose muscle. I have not lost muscle throughout this process, knock on wood. However, I need to start working out more to make sure that I am building muscle in place of where I am losing fat. You also want to build muscle during this process because that's basically just going to increase how much you can eat during a day, because if you have more muscle, you burn more calories. Okay, muscle is also feeding off any type of like sugar that's coming into your body from your fruits. I will also say that I've noticed in my eating patterns, and I know that you guys want me to go over my eating patterns, and I will do that. I'm going to be at my mother's house, so it might not be next week, it might be the week after that, but I will go over my eating patterns. I have noticed personally that I have to remind myself to eat my fruits and vegetables that I should be eating. I like to snack on carrots and hummus. I like to snack on berries for the most part, just because I do come from a more keto background. However, because I'm also eating so much protein, I do eat pineapple. Not like a whole bowl of pineapple, because yes, tropical fruit is super, super sugary. However, there's also something in pineapple that helps break down protein. And because I'm eating so much of it, I feel like, okay, I'm going to replace it with this. I love the way that it tastes. It's just going to help process the protein out. I personally have not been having any kind of GI upset, knock on wood, recently either. Of course, I have showed you guys in the past the different magnesium that I take as well. I'm also on Linzess that helps me personally with that, and I've worked with my GI specialist on those things to take. I just recently started taking the collagen that I just showed you all. I have 2 different collagens that I have. One I like more for like cold, like mixed up drinks. The other is more like I'll put it in a like warm hot coffee type thing, and it dissolves fairly quickly. It dissolves really well, and I can also put either of these in smoothies as well. There are different types of collagen to look at. In the past, I've not really been big on consuming collagen, because everything that I read basically just said your body is just going to flush it out anyway. It's not actually going to utilize it. Now there's different types of collagen, and they will talk about like a hydrolyzed, there we go, hydrolyzed collagen that you can get in different types of collagen. So there's numbered collagen as far as what they're good for as well. And so I've been looking at what other people have been saying to do, because there's been a lot of people talking about how they're getting sagging around their lips, sagging within their face, sagging, of course, on the skin on their arms and things like that. And everything that I listed in the skincare video that I did is everything that I use on my body. I also had been sponsored by SolarWave on one of my previous videos, and I used their infrared LED light mask, and this mask actually helps build collagen through the red light therapy on your face. And I also have their wand as well. So if I don't want to go sit with the whole mask on, then I will go through and use their wand as well. I am also not opposed to just putting that on my stomach or going over my arms with it as well. I will use it anywhere on my body, just so that you guys know if it's going to help, I'll use it. So that's all I'm going to go over for this week. I'm sure it's a lot longer than I expected it to be, because I wanted to keep it very short for you guys. I'm going to also show you guys my injection from this week. Again, it is still the 2.5, and I did it right here in the back of my arm. I don't suggest doing it yourself in the back of your arm, because I had like a really hard time trying to get it there today. And you also are trying to make sure that the pin is in the correct position. So don't follow me and what I'm doing and what I did today, because after I did it, I thought, I don't think I should have done it that way. I should have probably asked my husband to do it for me this morning, but I did not get up before he left super early this morning. So that's all I have for this week.